We're back. How's it going, guys? Hope you've had a good new year and a good Christmas time for those of you who celebrate it. We are back. It's 2023. Time for a new video and some updates to the channel. You'll probably notice there's like a little bit of rebranding going on once again, but we won't talk too much about that here. We will do that another time. What I wanted to do in this video is take a look back on the past year, 2022, for the studio, for me, and the games we developed, because there was actually quite a lot of stuff happened. I just wasn't particularly noisy on YouTube or on socials about it, so that's something I want to change. And first port of call of that is talking about everything I did last year and kind of reviewing the good, the bad, talking about what I would change and all the rest of it. So let's take a bit of a trip down memory lane and recount 2022. Up first, let's talk about Square Off. So many of you will know by now what Square Off is because it's been spinning for longer than I would like it to. Square Off was supposed to be my first commercial title. It was going to be releasing on Steam. It was a local multiplayer, fast-paced battle arena game where you play as little squares and you can shoot at each other and take each other out, kind of like Smash Bros. It had the knockback mechanic, and it was a really fun game, actually. It was a downscope over Echo, and my intention was to release it on Steam, as I said previously, in February last year, which didn't happen and probably won't, not for the foreseeable future anyway. It's one that I've spoken about before, but it's kind of, I just lost passion for it after running into various roadblocks with Steam Remote Play not being supported on Unity's new input system, because that was originally going to be my plan, was that I was going to use Steam Remote Play to do the online multiplayer side of things, and just have it as a local multiplayer game otherwise, but that didn't work, so I had to start looking into actual online multiplayer solutions, which is its whole own can of worms to get into. And so I basically took the executive decision, with it being in the state it was for the demo, to just have that be the release it on itch, and that was it. So that game is one that I'm proud of in the state that it's in. I was really happy with the design work. I learned a lot of lessons for how to actually, like, different parts of color theory, doing good marketing material design as well in terms of the hero images for Steam, and even just learning about the process of releasing a game on Steam as well. Even though it didn't see the light of day on Steam, it might one day, but again, not for the foreseeable future. This was a really good process for learning how actually getting builds onto Steam, playing games through Steam, integrating with Steam APIs and the rest of it. Was a really good project to work on with that regard, and yeah, really happy with the outcome of the final release/demo version that came out there. So very cool. You should check it out if you haven't already. Next up, we've got Tapestry. Now, Tapestry was really cool. So this was kind of, things have been fluctuating in the studio for a while. Me and my buddy Jaden from over in the States have kind of been working together for a longish time. We probably met in 2021, I think, or maybe even 2020, when we had both enrolled as students on Thomas Brush's full-time game dev course, and he was hosting a game jam in there, which me and Jaden worked together to make a game called Purgatory Gatekeeper, which is still one of my favorite little game jam projects to have worked on to this day, and you can go and play that on the itch page if you want to as well. But Tapestry was a bit of a passion project for me. With the way that I had set up the studio, basically, I wanted to do these fast iteration releases where we would each spend like a week or two working on a prototype for something. After that, we'd come together, play the prototypes, review what we liked, see whose we liked the most or which one we wanted to continue with, and then we'd build it out into a full game and release it. So Tapestry was one of these games. It was a prototype that I made, posted some GIFs up on Reddit for it, and I'd actually got some really good attention, so much so that we actually even discussed with somebody about potentially funding the project, which eventually we didn't end up doing for reasons that I can discuss in another video, but it was a really interesting opportunity. So Tapestry was a very traditional traditional style tile-based roguelike game with a very simple game loop of moving through different levels of grids, battling different types of enemies, collecting items, and just trying to survive as long as you could, basically. We had really big visions for this game in terms of the type of synergies you could create in different builds, different base characters that you could start with, but ultimately we ended up getting stuck with the underlying code architecture, and the game just released in its very basic demo state and hasn't really been touched since. I'd be interested to know what people think of it though. If you want to try it out, there is a link to the demo build that we did in the description of this video. So yeah, would be interested to know what you guys think of that, and if maybe it's a project that we pick up again in the future. Moving on, we are in August sort of time, I think, and I was making a game called COVALENT for the Wanayam Game Jam, and this was a really fun one for me to work on, actually. It was another one that I kind of spent maybe 5 days on and off creating, and yeah, it was really cool. So the theme for the jam was combination, and I was doing a live stream. I remember just after the theme was announced, we were talking about ideas, and my mate Alan chucked out an idea for a chemistry game, and I was like, that's just fantastic. And instantly I thought of this fun little physics sandbox where you could just throw around molecules, merge them together, and discover new molecules to then rinse and repeat the process. And it was really cool. I got to play around a lot with the physics system in Unity, and more just kind of really focusing on building out a project in a really polished state really quickly, because that's kind of how I like to function when I'm developing games. And so yeah, it was just really cool. It got really good response as well. It was rated quite highly for the audio, especially. That was one of the most fun parts of working on the project, to be fair. It was just practicing my audio design skills and playing around with actually taking out a video of the game into Logic, doing the sound design over the top as if I was playing the game, and just having this single audio track for the full gameplay, then breaking that down into individual things, integrating it with Fmod, getting everything working together with dynamic sounds. And it was really inspired by the sound design in Mini Motorways and Mini Metro as well. And yeah, I was just ultimately really proud of what I managed to pull together in 5 days worth of like 2-3 hour sprints. Fast forward a little bit, we made a game called RELIC. Now, RELIC was kind of a whim that I was like, you know, there's 10 days till Halloween. I want to make a game for Halloween. Should we make a horror game? And the rest of the guys were up for it. So it was me and Jaden again, but we also now had a sound designer called Matt, who I met during the, I think it was the Firith Autumn Game Jam, Cozy Game Jam, back in sort of autumn time of 2022. And he's really cool, really friendly guy, and really good at sound design. So we all kind of, having not done the project for the game jam that we intended to set out for, because once again I overscoped it massively, we ended up doing this little horror game called RELIC, which is a very simple kind of fetch quest style mission where you're in a procedurally generated mansion being chased around by a big scary monster. Originally, my inspirations were kind of It Steals and the original Slender game as well. You can run around this mansion and escape from the creature by hiding in safe rooms, which are scattered around procedurally. And the objective is to collect 6 of these little relics, which you can find lying around in cardboard boxes. It was the first 3D game that we'd actually made, or like truly 3D game that we'd made and that I've worked on in a very long time and published. So yeah, that was a really cool project to work on, and we actually are discussing what the plans are for scaling that up and releasing it more properly in future. So yeah, keep the eyes peeled for that, and maybe we'll see some stuff happen. And finally, taking us on to Christmas, the Great Christmas Toy Machine. This has got to be my favorite project of 2022. It was so good. We had obviously Matt doing sound design, and we collaborated with a musician as well, who I'll link in the description because he's really good at what he does. Really nice guy, and we had a pleasure working with him. So this was a game that we made for a Christmas game jam. I can't actually remember what the jam was off the top of my head, but it was a relatively small Christmas game jam, which comes with a single theme of Christmas, but then there would be some specific object that you had to incorporate somehow, and the object for this one was a gift. So the idea that I came up with was this cozy workshop game where children send requests to Santa for presents, and then you, as Santa running the workshop, go and build said presents and deliver them back to the children through the pipes that they sent you letters from. But the fun little twist is that when you deliver so many letters correctly, or so many presents correctly, then they'll chuck back some decoration as a thank you, and you can use that to decorate your workshop delivery room, which was just a really fun, silly concept. I've been really focused on this idea of games that don't have like a proper game loop. They're just sandboxes or fun little toys to play with. And this was a really good embodiment of that, and I'm really proud of what we managed to pull together in like 3 days before Christmas, basically. Definitely go check that one out. It's the most polished and most proud project that I put out last year, aside from Square Off. And yeah, the guys really put in a lot of effort working on it as well. It was really fun. Definitely recommend giving it a play if you fancy a little bit of a Christmas recap in the January blues. And so that brings us up to today in 2023, and I'm really thinking about how I want to change the direction of the studio. There's a lot around mindset when working in this kind of area. When you see people on other YouTube channels that are creating these really awesome projects that are massive, and it seems like people are just releasing really cool things all the time, it's hard to feel like you're actually doing good stuff. But fact of the matter is, in the last year, I've released basically 5 games, which is more than I was ever able to say, and not something that I particularly make enough noise about, you know? And it's quite difficult to differentiate between making the devlogs for things or thinking, oh, this game is too small to make a devlog over, and things like that. So that's something that I'm going to be changing moving forwards in 2023. I've got a lot of projects that I'm already spinning up, a lot of big ideas. One of my big goals for 2023 especially is to finally get my first commercial game released, and I intend to be making a lot more noise about that on this channel. So if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe, join the Discord server, and follow over on Twitter, where I am a little bit more noisy. So all of that being said, I think one of the big takeaway lessons from last year is to not put so much pressure on myself, or for you to put so much pressure on yourself as a developer or any other creative industry or non-creative industry you might be working in. You know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, as the classic saying goes. And you've got to make sure that you give yourself the credit that you're due for all of the small steps that you make along the way. I might not be at the point I wanted to be, where I'm signing publisher deals and living full-time off my game developer salary and all that jazz, but 5 games, albeit small jam style ones, is nothing to be sniffed at. For someone who's been doing game development for as long as I have, I've been making games on and off for like 12 years now, which is kind of insane. And even though I've dropped the ball on this channel multiple times and not really had a proper focus in terms of direction that I'm going in the past year, I've, like I say, released 5 games. I've met amazing people and really started to build up a foundation for how I want to drive the studio forwards, not just as a channel and as a passion project, but as a sustainable business and something I'll be able to continue into the future. And that's something that I want to talk about a lot more on this channel moving through the rest of the year. So that was a very speedy whistle-stop tour of 2022 for the Shubadog Studios universe, I guess. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to stick around for more. I'm going to be posting a lot more about everything that I'm doing over the coming weeks. I've already got another devlog in the works for one of the new projects that I'm going to be spinning up in this year. So if you want to be made aware of when that comes out, as I said before, make sure to subscribe and join the Discord server, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.